right, so we're gonna jump right on into the meeting. I want to start on time and relatively end on time, so I anticipate it will be about an hour. Hopefully everyone is signed in. If you can put in an email address, that would be helpful.
You want to just pass it
So
around?
I'm not sure if, I know you guys don't have a Google Drive. I'm not sure who does not have a Google Drive, because that could be a way that I could share everything a little bit better. Because the way information is being filtered out, it looks like it's being slower at the district level. So my understanding was that we were going to have communications sent out for every school at the district level, but it's happening at a slower pace than we would like it to be. So I want to set up a Google Drive so that the team could have all the information a little bit more timely.
Yeah, this would just be pushing,
Yes.
pushing it out, and we can read whatever you
and
put
you can
there.
read everything right there.
Yeah, I'd be a little shaky if I had to go in and edit anything. But
Right. We won't do any edit, just for like, you can just review purposes, minutes, agendas, all the work that we do here. So what I'll do is, if you don't have a Google Drive, then we'll help you set up a Google Drive. Because what we'll have is a team drive, and everyone will get the same information at the same time. And you can always go to this Google Drive location to look at any of the documents that we're working on. For example, agendas, maybe what we had talked about last week at the last month actually, because we're into March now, at our last meeting. So for the sake of time, I just wanted you to preview the agenda. You can have an idea of what we'll be focusing on tonight. And then I also passed out some pamphlets for the vision and purpose of our work here, and just making sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what our vision is for School 16, what our purpose is, what we're charged to do, and all the same in one, really our mission is to develop a revised school transitional plan to improve teaching practices, student performance, community engagement, school culture. We'll take a moment to look at that. If we have any questions before we start, or any additions, deletions, now would be the time. Just want to review the timeline briefly. You can see that. But pretty much everything up to where we are is in green, from having our public hearing to getting information about being a receivership, getting our recommendations, and we're into our second community engagement team meeting now. And we're still waiting for those demonstrable indicators. I was just gonna check to see if I got something today, but I haven't seen anything yet. We were anticipating getting them the February 8th. So I have not received those yet.
Who are those
Which
supposed
is
to come
going
from?
to the state.
Do they push back the due date at the end?
No, they usually don't adjust their due dates. And so once we do get that information, that will refine a lot more of our work and how we will set some of our recommendations. And then we are still working on those recommendations. Tonight, we will organize those a little bit more. We have a document here that is titled the Community Engagement Team Recommendation for School Intervention Plan. And this is a document that's submitted to the superintendent, and the superintendent submits this to the state. This is the document that is due March 15th. You notice where it's white there, that one there. And so what we'll be working on is really, we dump every single recommendation on here. So the work that we did last week when we went through and we said this is not a recommendation, this is, and we had to make some comments, those are things that we can add our comments here in this column here. Any information as terms to why we did not use those recommendations, but every single thing that was collected at the night of the public hearing gets cut and pasted into this document. And Mr. Lang is working on putting all those on there. Have you finished that yet?
I haven't started.
Okay, well, if you can't start it, I'm gonna get it done.
Yeah, I do.
Because that's very timely. That's something that I wanna move forward on, getting that all done. So we will be doing that tonight, dropping all those recommendations tonight. And I will have a plan to break us up into some subcommittees by tenants. So there'll be a tenant subcommittee for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I will charge those subcommittees to look a little bit deeper at those recommendations to see if they fit within our scope of what we have now, our school improvement plan, our comprehensive improvement plan. If no one is familiar with that, I can print some copies and make sure that we have those available. We did review those goals at the public hearing, but I have that readily available. We can just pull those forward. But I'll charge each subcommittee to really kind of fine tooth that, you know, make some comments in terms of whether it's a recommendation or not, you know, it's something that we can see moving forward. And then the last column, it says where in the plan has a recommendation been incorporated, if applicable. So it's rather pretty coincident that our tenants organized already by the tenants. So it really is gonna be within those tenants, how it's gonna be organized. We may already have some goals that are there that may be more specific, or it may even be a new goal. But we'll just kind of identify exactly where, whether it's social emotional, whether it's curriculum, whether it's teacher practices or not, and we'll put that in there. But really, this is just a document of gathering all the information that was in our recommendation, and this is where the superintendent will take a look a little further and say, hey, this is a good recommendation, I'm okay with that, I'm not, and he too will also make comments as to whether, you know, he think the recommendation is appropriate or not, and then he'll sign off on it and have it sent to the state on or before the 15th. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Are we in this document only addressing what came up in the community meeting, or can we make other recommendations?
We can make
besides?
other recommendations,
Okay.
yeah.
So we can add those to that document? Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And so recommendations, since I provided copies already, I am going to, we can count off by 6 by 6s. That way we'll have some genuine random groups, and we can kind of spread our selves among those tenants. So I'll start with 6. 6. And then we'll go backwards. That way I'm not 2, because 2 is personal to me. So I'll make sure that I'm not doing 2. So 6, and then we'll go 5,
4, 5,
4,
6.
3.
Are you doing it by tenants?
Yes.
So we only need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So
So
5.
2, so from 6 to 2.
Right, from 6 to 2. So I'm number 6, so we're counting backwards. You're number 5.
4,
3, 2.
Start to the top.
6.
5.
4, 3,
2.
6.
4.
3.
Awesome. Okay. So who has 2? You're the team leader. Who has 3? You're the team leader. Who has 4? 4?
I didn't.
4, you're the team leader. Thank you. 5? Team
I was
leader.
waiting for you.
I was sad for as well. I was waiting for her down there.
6? Anybody but me? You. And me. You can be the team leader.
Hey.
So what, your job will be to do is to take these tenants. Now, these were the original, so I'm gonna run off, one copy of the one that was modified, keeping in mind that that is the one where we went through and said, this is not a recommendation. This is a recommendation, or this really should read X, Y, and Z, because we didn't remove really too much in our initial meeting, but there were some that were either redundant or some that kind of stood out. So you'll see that some of your papers may have some highlights on it or whatever, whatnot, but they are pretty much in as raw as a form as when we originally got them the night that we actually had the hearing. And so we're just gonna refine it a little bit more, and then I'll get those tools, and then we can just have just one document where we can just kind of make some notes on one of them, and then we'll just update the actual tool in terms of what our recommendations were, why we felt that that wasn't going to be something that was going to be appropriate as we move forward.
We
Okay.
can cross off on here and write.
Yep.
on
Feel
it.
free to write on there. There's six or seven copies in every folder. So just feel free to write on them, and then we'll just make one the master markup, and then we'll put it into our document. And then so I'm going to give us about maybe 20 minutes to meet with that. Your subcommittees to go ahead on and do that. You can break out wherever you would like to break out at. And let's meet back here at about 5:40. It's about 5:20 now. So we can meet back here about 5:40.
So we can leave this room?
Yep, you can leave this room, go wherever you want with your team, and then we'll come back, and then we'll organize what you've done. Okay?
Who's fine? Who's number five? I'm fine.
So, yeah, so that's a description of the tenants.
Okay.
Rainier, everyone's in agreement with that. So now she's gonna come in and the library, we have the Project Fear coming. And so I hope you guys will be there. Probably should have been March 14th.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got it.
Okay. And so I wanted to invite her to be a part of that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, be a great introduction to her. Let's see her parents, do you want to sign up for that? However she wanted to work. It's great.
Have you gotten the busing?
You mean the
hub,
petition, right?
petition,
Yeah,
yeah.
I scanned the email.
Okay, but there's also an online one that would be good to send out to
Definitely, I wasn't aware of that.
parent. You weren't, okay.
I don't know that too.
If you go to location 19, you have to go to location
Yeah.
19 on the main page. If you just scroll down a bit, it's right there front and center. And if you can get as many folks to sign up while we can, because spring goes by so quickly. You know, the legislature is going to go home pretty soon.
We're saying that
We don't
number
have
2 is more of like a
everything
tenant
into
that's
it.
more of a,
Send it through email for people.
a parent family.
Yeah,
I
okay.
have them sign. Sounds great. Another way of
So
reaching.
that's gonna be a move.
Like it.
Yeah, we're at about, last I looked, 360 signatures or so. on that
How many
petition.
you were trying to, what would you go?
Oh,
Yeah,
I'd like
because
to
I
see
would think
1,000
that
or so, you know. But,
we're talking
And
about,
are you
you
doing
know,
it
more
in the schools in
formative
Southwest?
assessments.
yeah, really, any school in
Instead of
Rochester.
summative, so
is
more
fair
formative
game.
that are, that happen more often,
Have you shared it with
so
other
that we
schools?
can.
Yeah, whether they have disseminated it or not is another question. But, I will shake with bushes again. Somehow the bushes don't stay shook. Did you ever run into that?
Or standard-based instruction. So that's more standard-based instruction.
It's very beneficial to put it like in the office or the back where people are picking up. As kids are already getting a buzz. First of all, the parents are not here, but as often, but not too much of a concern. But those that have to come every day and pick their children up because of their location.
So far.
Literally.
So,
Well, we got almost down to the first page.
yeah, I was like, wait. So no, that should stay there because if you want the children to be engaged, they'll.
Yeah.
So, number 6 for me. Less test prep, teach a lesson.
I was at the CET meeting at Wilson Foundation.
Horizontal and vertical grade level work.
They were very interested in the candlelight dinners.
You know what, here,
So
it's
that
interesting, and I don't
teacher-
know
so that
if it was just
meeting-
that one, because everyone was excited
teacher focused. So I
about
think that that's
going.
more around
And when I put it out there, they was
around
emailing me back,
planning,
like, that's
around
great, but I
data
was getting like,
driven, you know, instruction.
So I think it was the date, just that it wasn't like
Yeah.
they didn't want to be there.
So I'm
Because I know
thinking that I'm leading that
like,
towards
The
3
one
as
teacher's
well.
not there, we were very
What does
excited
anybody
about
else
it. When I
say?
put it out, the one next door, they was like, oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. So I think it was more like inconvenience at that moment. And once maybe one
But if
person
we
didn't go,
extend on
didn't
that,
go.
this last piece where it says
Stop the
support
next one.
teacher
Like, I'm not gonna go
focus,
for myself.
it could
you know.
be more of a
Yeah,
focus
it's,
to the individual learner,
well,
which goes back to
we have
one
a
and-
year to get ready
and
for
then
the
it
next.
goes to,
It's only once
you know,
a year?
Yeah, they've been doing
strategic
it
practices
February.
and
Of course, there's
decision
nothing
making
that
to
says that you
decrease the
don't
gap
try to do something
or
more
address
often.
the gap.
If I know exactly what they're learning.
No, to identify.
How are things going with
Individual
PTA,
student needs.
PTO?
I have to say last week was
Taking out the teacher focus.
probably the
Right, so
biggest
because
turnout since I
it
was
says
here.
it says to focus.
I can't remember, I just put it in the calendar, but it was okay.
How many do you have? Buzzing?
Probably 8, I think.
All right, well, we could
Wait,
put
no,
an
that's too
addition in
much.
here to it that says increase. Are you sure that you say you have Senate 4 here? Okay. I just wanted- All right. well,
Seven?
this one-
Oh,
this one I
seven.
think was-
Okay.
Yeah, no, kids. I would love for the teachers, because it's parent teacher.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That would be great if I could get them to come and say,
More
Katrina.
engaging for students.
Leona.
I mean, we could, it says increase for work, so we could just
She
add to that.
said they're up to about 70.
Because remember, we're going back to Senate 4 is increasing engagement.
Local enrollment.
Kids in the group.
You know,
Right.
they've got
Right.
short distance busing there. The city's paying for it, paying for it. So just, and they've got something like 50 parents in the school
So
every
it
day.
would say
Because
something.
everybody's
they're all
right
local
there.
kids.
Yeah, they can walk across the street.
Yeah. So it's, all these things are interconnected.
This one, did you see this one right here? So you can see
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
comparison to
that's
see
what
if there's much change.
That includes.
But,
This is the same one that's
Yeah, it's
in this
pretty-
folder, yeah. Yeah,
you
that's
can
what
look,
we
just
were
fine
looking
tooth
at.
it to see if,
High levels of engagement that are differentiated. How about that?
and I know that last meeting, John, you had mentioned something that kind of stood out for me. And it was like, bring the candlelight dinner to the school. And that to me, that sounded like a really good idea. And that will be a good way to kind of bridge the gap between the school and the community, because now we're having it here. And so we can even have it earlier, you know, instead of 7 o'clock in the evening, we can have it closer to maybe the close of school, like maybe 4 or 5.
It would be a way to maybe get that started. Of course, the bigger
So number 10 is going to
objective
be, or
that
number
we
9 is going to be
had in
moved to 10 and 3.
getting
because
people
that's
to
an
people's
assessment.
homes is to get them into the neighborhood.
Exactly. So this would be a good place where we can actually say we want our teachers to be a part of the community, and we would like to participate in maybe X number of community events. So one being, say, candlelight dinners, Aberdeen Square Fair.
I'm
I
not
don't know
sure
what other events do we
that
have
one is
that are
referring to.
happening. We attend
Yeah,
a
we just had the skating party
I don't
that
know
they
if
have
that's-
down at the rink there.
so
That's-
Nothing
like
that-
give
that
a
has
gamut
ever
of
been brought to our
choices
attention.
Yeah.
of what's happening, of
I mean, the
a way
technology
that
that we
teachers
use, the same
can.
technology.
Have you
the
been
technology
getting
that they would use.
notes from Jackie?
Okay, so
at
for
the office?
example,
Jackie Farrell.
if you take NWE.
Not
which is
specific
specifically,
Because
like,
they take 3 times
most
a
of the
year.
stuff is
They
either
take it
from you
kindergarten,
or Miss Brown,
first and second grade,
or
take it
we
in
know
the
something
computer
that's
lab,
going on.
Mhm.
So that's kind of
desktop
like how we know
computers,
what's going on.
which is
We really
different
don't, like,
than the Chrome
have, like,
boxes,
a forum
the small
where we're seeing
computers
all of
that they use
19
in
board
the
events,
classrooms. And that is
or
because
we
the
see
NWEA
opportunities
cannot
when we really
use
can.
their technology.
Yeah,
The community.
we've
So what it
got to
looks
make
like
sure that we
in
get
to
get you to have all the emails. I'll check with Jackie again. Have you joined the association yet?
I think I did.
Here in their
think I
classroom.
did.
I filled out a form, so yeah, I filled out a form, but where did that form go? I don't know.
She's a step ahead of me. I haven't.
Okay.
I filled out something.
And
Well-
so that is a
Why don't we,
district and a
like,
SOC program software
make this a part of our
because
plan,
it just,
you know,
that NWA
join
cannot-
the
that
19
software
Board
cannot
Community
be
Association.
And
on
these are the, you know,
the
things, the
technology
criteria,
that
this
they
is what
have in
goes
the
with
classroom.
it. And so as a part of that,
But
we're expecting
to
for
combat that
you,
issue,
if you're going to be a
there's open
teacher at this
computer
school,
lab
in the heart
sessions
of
where
the
the
community,
teachers can
we
work
expect you
with
to be
kids
at the parade, we expect you to be at the
once a day
Avenue
if they
Square,
wanted
or
to.
we expect you
To get them
to do
exposed
field
to that.
trips
And that's
at
what
the
we
Presbyterian
discussed with
home,
them,
or we expect you
to
to
get them
partner with the
exposed to the
library
mouth
and
for
do
the test
field
counts
trips like
sometimes
that.
a year.
These are things we have
But
to
at
know.
any rate, that's
Yeah,
intended.
Because
think-
we leave it as, if you want to, then if you want to, it's not gonna get us to where we need to bridge that, you know, that
The program
relationship.
that Susan Morehouse has got going, I assume that involves
That's curriculum.
go with the kids.
That's curriculum development.
That would be one way to
And
do
that would
it.
be a great way
Yes.
to get them on a
was on board for that. I said that.
And community partners.
That's something a lot of
Every
teachers would
smile.
be interested
Yeah,
in.
they were, it was like, it's awesome, they get to walk the kids down, they get to have a rec, put the city
Career
rec
days.
on move,
Related to
and then they go and get some juice or something, read a book, and walk back.
So how would that look like? How would we write that as a goal?
That would be
as
attendance 60.
plan? I'm just trying to see if we see.
Could be attendance.
Let's say partner with Arnett,
Social emotional.
invite them to superintendent's day.
Both.
So with this one right here, can we elaborate a little bit more? What does partner with Arnett branch? Because that's Arnett branch library, right?
As well, Miss, I'm having her come in, and she's going to, do library cards for every student.
Okay.
Even kids that are old, it will be wiped away. So therefore,
I would actually change
I mean, a
that
copy.
document to parent and or volunteer helpers.
Summer reading, they do a program, read so many
Okay.
books, 3 books, and they get tickets to different things and things that we have going on in community concerts, skating, museums, so you read so many books and your parents sign, you get that, yes, so bringing that back.
So I'd like to make that a little bit more definitive and just be a little bit more specific of what it looks like. What does the partnership look like on both ends? So the library is gonna come to us and do, you know, education on, you know, how do we access the books from the library with the library cards? Maybe she could even come to PTA and meet with parents. And maybe we could have a day where we are
Most of them fall in the
be like a Saturday. Families would definitely have to come and meet. We could have a day during school hours, and we can have a day like off school hours, where it would be the teachers and
Each
the
of us had
library, and
each
then it
of
would be
us
the families
facilitated.
and
I
the
think
library. So I like that, kind of like make a triangle to kind of bridge it both.
Everyone together.
Yes, so let's refine that one. So the library will also work with our parents. And I'll just put PTA in parentheses, and then teachers
I would say 10 or 4.
with like field trips.
I'm thinking it's a strategic practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the library also offers a lot of things that parents might take.
Parent workshops.
Parent workshops for, you know, they offer stuff for tax.
Yay, we found
Knowing
one.
what to look for. There's a lot of training that might be good for some parents,
We
kids
can
in
really
school.
set up like a schedule, a timeline on when things should be happening, and how they can support us, because this would be the perfect time of year. We could have
That's a way
already
to
had this like in our
decrease and address the
parent
gap.
handbook.
Oh, you wanna have
And it to be one of our events as well.
That
We
would
can
be
also
kind of
include
people.
transportation.
Well, I'm thinking because of the tutoring and supporting students, it would be a way to, it would be a strategic plan to help increase the gap.
This is the library.
It could also be a community.
We always
So we
invite
could
them
put
to like our
support
project fair, and they give out free books. We invite them to our
Tuesday
literacy
and
or reading
Thursday,
night,
some
and they
of them
usually bring
overlap
books.
with
So I think that should be a part of it. We can continue with that because that's something good, but not enough of. But to really build on it and make it our plan with the library. I think we probably need to speak a little bit more with the key person who can work with us to collaborate. What's Sharon Morehouse? Okay.
Susan Morehouse.
Susan.
She is the head of the Arnett Block Club.
Okay.
I don't think she's associated with the library other than she's doing this with.
Okay, so so she's like the liaison.
Yeah, she's the president of the Block Club, and she works with 2 or 3 other organizations to organize this thing that they had been doing with School 29, which can't get involved this year, so they're trying to do it with 16. And Bruce, the head of the library there, is the person you should be getting in touch with.
Whether or not I agree or not. I'm trying to think.
But this is the one.
She's the contact for that program.
What's the program
You
called?
get a class with.
What did you call it?
That's the same one when they walked down for the field
Special ed
trip.
teacher.
But no, that's not, it was the contact for the, on that line for the library. It was not for a specific program. That's what we spoke about the program. But her email didn't make it as she was just the contact for that program. But she shared other things that you were sharing, that they do at the library, as that's who I go to. We are my contact person for anything that I want to set up.
That way
She
with
wasn't
their
able to come and meet with us.
I did invite, no, she wasn't.
to their special education services.
We're sorry,
That you have an
And we
IEP
can
that
further
says you
develop
have
a
to
plan
take your
of what she
test
can
in an
commit to
individual
and
setting.
help us to bring into
Outside your classroom,
fruition.
that's what
So
I have
that's
to come
something we
and
can
you
actually
do.
definitely say
Or
this is
if
what
you
we
get
want it to
consulted
be.
extra support in ELA.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about some of the other
outside your
community
classroom, some of that
events?
One of the
ways
big ones that I hope that you're going to really try to
we
get
also
involved
have
with is
a
the
situation though that's not mandated.
the house tour.
Okay.
Well,
Which
response to intervention is
I'm
mandated.
guessing will probably be late summer,
Which
early
means that a student who's
fall.
performing below grade
That's
level
usually when
has to
they
have additional support.
They usually
And
get
what we
half
do
a
is
dozen
we have, or we need to
houses to
and all the kids are just
to volunteer
groups based on data and
to be
based
on the
their
house
needs.
tour.
And so that instruction is
And
differentiated
people
based on their needs.
work their
And
butts
so
off getting the house clean for the year.
Really?
Bring them to.
I know, because we went through it last time.
Houses in the 19 wards.
So you can go and visit houses. It's not houses that are for sale. It's just trying to
What would
get a
that-
feel.
So how would that help the school?
Well, what they would like to do is use School 16 for the base camp, basically, for that tour, so that the school would
To another
be
group.
the place that people come
There's no.
to initially, and
For that
30 to 45.
yeah, I think there's
So
a
they're
fee
all
for.
always a class, except for
No,
that
it's
one
you
time
buy the
really,
booklet
really
basically.
honed
They
in
put together a
differentiated.
booklet that
And so
explains
you have,
to the houses.
you know, 7 or
And I
8
don't
teachers
remember
who are
whether
really honing
it's
in
$10
and
or
differentiating
$15
their
or
instruction
something.
based on what you
But,
really need. What you really need might not be what
certainly
she really
something
needs,
that we
so
should
you're not
probably
in the same group, in the
get
same
together
class.
with. I forget what name. I'm terrible with names. I
So I'm
know
trying to figure
the
out.
person
this
who's heading
suggestion
up
even
the
where it would
committee
go.
for the house tour had sent me a note asking to.
But how
Who
would
to
this help
touch?
us to move the agenda for the children? I mean, I would like to be the beacon for that.
Tell me about that.
We really need an idea of how the community.
What you want to do in this house tour is have this school look like the most
To decrease the
fantastic
gap.
school
And I
that
also think
parents
that it's
coming from the
underpenetrated.
burbs
Because-
would want to buy a house in this neighborhood to have their kids in. I mean, that's what I see as something that's worth
Teacher
doing,
is
is
a
really,
school leader.
you know, tying the school into the neighborhood, making people in the neighborhood aware of the school, school aware of the neighborhood, having the teachers
Yeah.
be afraid to go out to these places.
Is this usually on a weekend?
Yeah, I think it's usually on a Saturday.
Okay. So you would like to have
I
maybe a
can see where if we continue to use technology
setting
to
with
engage
teachers working and possibly
students,
children?
I would like to add to that. Continue to use
Hopefully by then, we will have gotten
differentiated,
out of
targeted
receivership.
Right.
Or continue to use targeted
This
technology.
is, I mean, we may or may not get there this year, or what's your thought on it?
Continue to use targeted
I mean,
technology.
now probably not, because we're so in our hands busy with just trying to figure out, you know, what we're doing, where we're
Yeah.
going. So,
Well, anyways, the thing is, they usually have some morning program where people can come, get some introduction. You can, if you're working with them, you can probably get to say a few things about this fantastic school, and then they go out to the various houses.
I think it could be in both.
Recommendations, you can make sure that you leave the copy with me, so I can make sure that that gets updated into the plan here. And then we'll go from there. So we can start with tenant 2.
Someone stole my spot, so I'm sorry. All right, we took out adopt programs such as Math 360, ABC Mouse, because we felt they didn't belong in this tenant. And also encourage opportunities for students to learn through songs, riddles, and raps and rhymes. Some things we focused on were staff professional development, creating schedules where students receive academic intervention before school, offer workshops for parents, requiring mentors or coaches for new and struggling teachers, developing electronic newsletters for communication with families, checking lesson plans for quality lessons and pacing, common planning time, which we do already.
those are staying, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Implement teams to seek parent support with attendance. Implement systems to teach students to be responsible, which Student Council Safety Patrol, which we do already. Survey the staff on student relationships, behavior, teaching style. And then we added a few. Hold regular evaluations by administration of how the procedures are being enacted and followed in our schools. So when we develop a procedure, say it's school-based, putting in place a way for you guys to evaluate its effectiveness. And develop a communication plan or protocol to improve timeliness of administrative response to staff communication. You want these?
Yes, please.
I'm just gonna stand right here.
Okay, tenant 3, please.
Thank you.
Okay, so for tenant 3, we just went through and crossed off the ones that didn't belong in this group, and we actually put the tenant that we thought they would belong in if they were there. We added a couple things to it, such as vertical planning, and go ahead, you can say that one.
Develop what has formerly been known as, but we retermed it exit evaluation. So as we're vertical planning, we speak with the 4th grade teachers, for example, being one, would like let 3rd grade teachers know what are some of the things that I need my next year's 4th graders to come to me with in order to be successful that year. And also things that we can look at for early intervention for kindergarten, fine motor skill type stuff in the beginning of the year. I know, for example, my son works on like stringing beads on paper clips or poking holes from the beginning of the year because that's what he needed from the get-go, and we found that in kindergarten screening. One thing that we did talk about though is with this being the curriculum tenet, with the distinguished educator and it needing to be a consistent curriculum across the district, where does that fall with being a receivership school? Like, do we fall in line with district-wide curriculum? We don't have as much control over what we want the curriculum to be, but what we actually do with it. So a lot of this develop a curriculum that's had to go.
So with that, I guess we would look at what is out there, what is the district offering. The district is moving in that direction,
Right.
to make those decisions, but not fast enough for us to kind of jump on board. But I can say that we are moving in the direction of balanced literacy. We do have a lot of those components now. So using what we know works is, we're moving in the right direction, but we really need to refine it more. So just having some more specific recommendations for maybe choosing a curriculum that is research-based, based, best practices, that, shows student growth, that kind of thing. Just really looking at some more options. And that's something that we could possibly bring to our next meeting, look at, and make some, informed decisions about those kinds of things
It's
too.
still confusing though, because when the district does come out and say, well, this is what we're going to follow for ELA, this is what we're going to follow for math, where does that fall in with the decisions that we've made? Because we kind of have to step in line.
Right.
If we're spending thousands of dollars to it, which it isn't to be discussed here because we can't make that decision. But some of the other things that we wanted to focus on, I just lost my train of thought. We said that was a district problem, the stability through that. We talked about, there was writers' workshop in here, and we talked about when we were America's Choice and off the state list, the whole UBD, when people are just following a curriculum instead of looking at the standard, I need to teach my kids how to, add numbers up to 10, and then I find my own materials. Because a lot of the problem sometimes is, especially in the younger, you're easy to go lesson 1, lesson 2, and it needs to kind of get away from that again and make sure you're hitting your standards so it meets the exit criteria. Evaluation.
And knowing that, what you know is you can recommend that with confidence, knowing that it's research-based and it does work and it is tried, true, and proven to work. And so you can say, well, I want to keep that recommendation there because I've used, workshops before and I'd like to see that moving forward as a part of our plan. So that's something we keep.
Rigor is another thing that we really wanted to focus on. High expectations for student work. We find a lot of disconnect with some kids used to just copying versus thinking.
And the same consistent use of language and vocabulary, so that I know how Carrie's doing writing. So if I'm doing writing with my LLI group, I can say, well, you did,
You said something about vertical too, right?
Vertical planning and
all fall in line.
Yep.
And everybody has the same terms. And then some of the others were maximize time for instruction. That's kind of not us because it's curriculum. That's a teacher problem or a teacher practice problem.
However, you can make recommendations that would help support movement in the right direction. So, that would be good. You all set?
We're good, I think.
So we're on 3 now?
No, we were 3.
Four. I want to go back first. And I'll take your final paper, just
Shove everything in the envelope. You want everything back in the middle envelope?
No, I just want the one that you wrote on that
Write
matters the
original on
most.
it. Okay. Hi, everyone. Got it? This is Tenet 4, Teacher Practices and Decisions. And for those of you, I missed the meeting last time. I apologize. I'm Lisa Guerra. I'm the assistant principal. I was home ill. But we have Tenet 4, Teacher Practices and Decisions, and we found as we went through this that we had a lot of recommendations that were in Tenet 6, some that were even in Tenet 3. So I'm going to read to you what we did keep and didn't move, and some that we added. Number 1, more teacher assistants and paraprofessionals to differentiate learning and engage the students at their individual levels. The next one, less test prep, teach the lesson as a whole, embed it into the instruction, get back to standard-based instruction. Horizontal and vertical group, grade level work, grouping and regrouping students to identify student individual needs to address the learning gap. I think all those were moved. Continue to use targeted technology to engage students and address the instructional needs. Increase small group instruction that includes high levels of engagement that are differentiated. Create and choose one lesson plan, common lesson plan template that includes specific components that is used through K through 6. Develop and use one data-driven protocol that is used to drive instruction. Continue to use data meetings that are held every 6 weeks to analyze student data and drive instruction. And those are ours.
All right, thank you.
And you want this?
Yeah, okay. And then, thank you. Number 5.
All right, so Tenet 5, social and emotional developmental health. We went through, and actually a lot of this you'll find are things that we are doing, but we may just want to put more of an emphasis on it. So talked about really reinforcing PBIS and SOAR, making sure it's being done by all staff and it becomes part of our rituals and routines. Really emphasizing restorative circles and practices and using them, before really conflicts develop. Also connecting that with making sure we're doing morning meetings on a consistent basis to help build those relationships. We talked about where we kept student role models and mentoring older students working with younger students, providing those positive role models. We talked about Center for Youth and Quad A as far as really increasing that, and particularly with Quad A, increasing the amount of students that we can have in there, almost treating it like an extended day concept. Talked about trying to get more social workers to work with our students who do have experienced trauma and do need that social emotional support. Having character ed. And connecting, character ed activities with the awards assemblies, and recognizing students that are engaging in those character traits done in the, that are talked about with the character education. Also bringing in, some of the community, so increasing Pillars of Hope, which is coming in already, but maybe increasing that, also having one for trying to find a group for the female students that we have. Creating partnerships with churches and business to help with some of the basic needs that our students may be missing. Creating mentorships for students, or mentorships by community members that would continue with our students beyond their time here at 16. And I brought up one group in particular, Lawyers for Learning, which maybe we could tap into. I do have some information on that if we're interested, and along with Big Brothers and Big Sisters.
Lawyers for Learning are at 29.
Yeah, I used to work at 29. That's how I knew that. So, and I know some of the from outside, some of the folks involved in that. So.
Your name again was?
Oh, Andy Rosniak. I'm the coordinating administrator for special education here. So this is important to me.
And did you all make any more additional new recommendations to that?
No,
it
was was really just looking at what we had and increasing the concept of what we
have. Do you all feel the need for any more recommendations, or are you okay with what we have? So far, so good. Okay, excellent. All right, next would be Tenet 6. You and John did a lot of talking. I know I ended up joining in on the library piece.
Prior to you coming in, I had to join. We was talking about the PTA building. One of the things is having teachers. Part of our PTE, should I say, it's not PTA, being Teacher Eagles, but having teachers on board. Talking about building relationships with community at the Presbyterian Home is something that we have started on. Already visiting over, trying to get more teachers to go over and visit so we can get the relationship going. And went into the library, building relationships, something we started, but trying to build on what we already started. Inviting the librarian in to sit and talk maybe with some of the teachers about different ideas and things that can happen between the students, the staff, and the library. Open house for parents as well, to be able to go to the library or here
and have the librarian come in, or my contact person, should I say, it's not the librarian, come over and explain some of the programs they have for adults as well as the children, for some reading during the school, weekends, and building relationships. We talked about an open house tour, and just more of the teachers being a part, I should say, I don't want to say teachers, staff. 16 school staff, being more a part of things within the community and building that relationship, seeing that we are in the community, events that happen, like the candlelight dinner they had, or different events that come up in the community, as a staff going over to show appreciation of being in the community and to build that partnership.
I think we'll just talk a little bit more about like some of the key events, because I know we can't participate in everything, but being able to have a venue where we have all the events that are happening in the neighborhood and have it as a choice option for teachers can decide what they can participate in, and then giving them opportunities to participate as we try to build that relationship. We talked a little bit about that, John, and John's going to work on that piece for us.
Okay.
And we have, as I said, many things that we noted that were actually intent for tennis.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in here. Some things that are done, like you have book for every child. That is something that I do every year. Well, I did last year, the first year, and what we continue to do again this year. As well as when we do Project Fear, the librarian comes in and give out free books. When we do our reading night, the library comes in and also gives out free books. The Cub Scouts, we do have them as a partnership. They're just getting ready to start here. Actually now the Cub Scouts are one. Okay. They're unisex, so both girls and boys can join. So we can have two if someone requests, but one covers both at this time. The Presbyterian Home was another one that we already built a relationship. Summer learning program we are working on, as well as what's on here. There's something here, phone calls every week, ensuring regular communication based on family and teacher relationship. That I know is not done. And just, I don't even know if I've seen it, but something I know, more events to bring families in to focus on them. We do have a health fair coming up this month. That was not there. This is one of the parents from PTE that we just discussed, the health fair coming this month, and other events coming in for parents.
Now, the Boy Scouts decided that they would take girls, but that doesn't mean Girl Scouts went away.
So yes, I said they're welcome to come as well.
Yeah, so the Girl Scouts, you're going to invite them too? Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts?
Yeah. So it'll definitely be a choice.
Because they're still two different organizations.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Sing cookies.
No, what is popcorn?
The boys have popcorn, the girls have cookies. So yes, certainly that will be something, because I know that's something that used to be in the school, and kids would come after school and they would participate in the Boy Scout, Girl Scout. So that's something we can definitely incorporate. I know a lot of families grew up on that.
We're actually looking for another person to work it. I did took a test and everything I needed to make sure it can be placed here. But I need another person to work once a week. So I had an email going out and asking people, yes, they will volunteer if they're coming.
Do you know how many kids at this school actually live in the neighborhood?
Not exactly.
I mean, that might be something to look at in terms of how you plan activities, because of the way of busing, that kids can only get busing if they're 1.5 miles away. If you put a School 16 in the center and draw a 1.5 mile circle, not one kid in the 19th ward qualifies to get busing into this school. So looking at how we can be more a neighborhood school, I know John's group is sort of lobbying Albany that they will bus kids in at a shorter distance. I mean, I think you can do a lot of neighborhood stuff, but if most of the kids whose parents want them to be bused, they don't live in this neighborhood.
And so something I do for them parents is get bus passes as part of the budget if you can't make it, or if it's an event, and that I try to build a great relationship with my parents to make sure they feel open with me, to let me know where they can't make it, carpool, bus pass.
And when it's a bit with children, you're surprised how many parents actually come out when it's about their children, no matter how far they are.
Is that something that you wanted to recommend that we,
Well, no, I was just sort of curious if you had ever looked in your,
well, we
your
know
computer
from
files.
just our last transitions that we lost more and more kids from the neighborhood when we left, and then we gained more and more kids from everywhere. Not even.
But you've got a database that has kids' address,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, I think
just to do the zip code,
Yeah.
you give a pretty rough cut. So of the, how many kids there are, how many have a zip code of 19?
Because I think a lot of parents, here's my house, they draw a circle of 1.5 miles, and they pick a school outside of there so their kid can get
that, so
bus.
they can get a bus.
Yeah.
So are you just
Get
talking
a
about
bus.
19, but are you looking at 11? Because some of them are still in
Yeah.
that mile and a half range, depending on that cutoff. 11, 8. So are you just looking at people in the 19th ward?
Well,
Or anybody in that mile and a
the
half?
11th ward, I mean, that's just across Genesee Street.
Right.
Yeah, it would be good if we could get some data together for the short busing initiative we've got to know how many kids you've got coming to this school from the neighborhood. And also the thing that the district is doing, which helps, but they're backfilling the buses so that after they've determined we need 15 buses or whatever it is coming from all various neighborhoods, the buses get here with only 70% filled or so they can go and pick other kids that are within the 1.5 miles here, and they start with the
Street as well.
It actually saves money. An analysis that got done a couple different times by the school district.
And is it
You
gonna
think you're busing
increase
somebody
student
half a mile
performance?
versus 2. It's
So
gotta be
ultimately,
cheaper.
we want to increase student performance, and we want families who want to be here
Yeah.
because they are getting what they need. They like the programming, they like the staff, they like the neighborhood. So it's a whole lot of variables we would have to look at. But I think that that's a small piece of the puzzle with the work that we've got to do here. We have several recommendations that we need to sort through. The first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to get those recommendations on the attachment E document and get it caught up with what you have on your sidebar comments as to what you may or may not have crossed out. So if you could pass those to me, that would be great. And are there any questions, suggestions, concerns that anyone wanted to bring up at this time? It's a good time.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal all your
Did
ideas.
you get this to me, Lisa? Oh, this is, okay.
What do you need?
Well, I was just gonna, if anyone has the final copy of these, I was gonna walk them down.
We handed ours in.
Ours, too.
You know, but depending on what they do, we don't know what the district
I just find it unbelievable.
I know, it just says so much to look at that.
No
Yeah,
questions?
well,
No
John had made
suggestions?
one
No
up and then I went
comments?
back and pulled that together.
So the next meeting is it's already scheduled for March 11th. Same time, 5 o'clock, same channel, same location. And at that meeting, you will be able to see this all in one place. I'd like to get your final feedback in terms of our rationale decision as to keeping it, adjusting it, or where in the plan that it should be. I know most of you identified already what needs to be moved to 6 and those kinds of things. So I will make those notations in there as well. But like I said, this is a working document that will be eventually approved by the superintendent. So he'll also have an opportunity to look at it and give his rationale or his decision for including it or not including it based on what comments he put here. And this is the form that will be submitted on the 15th. In the meantime, we'll continue to kind of just get yourselves a global vision of kind of what we would like for the plan to look like for improving our school via the CET plan for each tenant, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that's kind of like where we are in those stages now, but I really would like to kind of like our next meeting refine, like what does the workshop model, what type of curriculum would call for a workshop model, and really get a little bit more specific. When we look at our community engagement, more specific, what is that going to look like? Who are our partners going to be? What are the partnerships going to bring to the school? What can we bring to the partnership? So we can see the full circle of why those decisions or why those implementations are going to make a difference. So that's what we'll look at as a little bit more closer lens. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more refined. We will be kind of working off of this document because this document is just all of our ideas really gathered. So what I would like to start doing is lifting, refining, putting things in a structure, really lining it with the CET plan, looking at the CET plan. Do we already have goals in the CET plan that fits with those goals? Do we need to be more specific with some of those goals? Because ultimately what we do here is going to be transferred into the CET plan. Yes.
Oh, Carla, one
Yes.
quick question. You said you wanted us to start looking at curriculum and stuff. When does that have to be submitted? Because obviously a week isn't.
I want to say we'll start developing our work agreement, and that's going to be end of March.
Is the work agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the end of March. So I would say we'll look to let's set up a couple more meetings here today. And that way we can kind of look at our calendar out in terms of meeting some of those deadlines as well. So you all have calendars?
Can I just say something about the curriculum? Because when I hear that we want to adopt a curriculum, it makes me really anxious because I don't feel qualified to choose a curriculum. Like I feel like that's why we pay, not we, taxpayers pay people downtown because they have the experience.
And I have started having conversations with curriculum directors. And they're also inviting them to our CET meetings along the way also to share information with us. But I just went out of my own, just say, look, I need you to come over and share with me what's out there, what's available, what's research saying about this, what can we use to get the best bang for our buck. So I am talking with directors and getting, information from them, recommendations from them. And so as we gather that information, I'll be better informed once we get closer to that because I would have already talked to math, science, social studies, ELA. ELA was the first, by the way. So having a conversation with them, hey, what's the district doing? What direction are we going? What do you recommend? How, what's feasible for us in receivership? This is what we're using now. What can we use without scrapping everything? Because we don't want to scrap everything. We have a lot of good things that do work. So just really getting all that information so I can bring it back and say, hey, this is what the director of ELA is saying. This is what the director of math is saying. And this is pretty much kind of like the district's kind of like direction because we haven't totally adopted our curriculum for anything, whether it be math, science, or social studies. But that's the talk now that that's what they're going to do. But considering our timeline and what we need, it's not fast enough for us. So we're going to have to jumpstart some of our decisions based on our situation.
And do they have timelines? Like, are they thinking, next September they're going to roll them out? Because if not, we could be like their pilot school. Right.
And we suggested that we be a pilot school only because it's going to take a couple years for the district to get the proposals approved, to set up the plan for staff development, for, curriculum materials. And that takes 1 to 3 years, and so that 1 year is just figuring it out. And I feel like we've been figuring it out for the last few years.
Right.
And we need to know right now a point of reference, a direction to go. So what our next meeting, I should have at least, I know for sure one department of some recommendations. At least one I can say right now. We can try and schedule it one more time, but we don't necessarily have to have it one more time because everyone's familiar with what this is. You know what this is right now. It's just a matter of me putting it in there and just organizing it. But I would like to meet before the end of the month at least one more time.
Now,
2 would be
did you
good.
have the 11th set
The
down?
11th is already scheduled.
Okay, and we're going to have to, John, I heard from Cameron Clyburn, she was trying to set meetings. I think she was talking.
Second Monday, I think.
Yeah, she was saying second Monday, so which would be next week, right? So at least this month it conflicts. But I don't know if she was talking about February. But it would be good to figure out what we're going to do for the monthly date.
Right. So 3/11, it'll be really kind of looking at where we are at summary of what we're gonna submit to the state. So everyone will have an opportunity to see that this one more time. And then our turn will be to start really making some more informed decisions, really specifically about what those goals are gonna look like in the set. So as we start doing that, that really is preparing for the employee work agreement. That's really kind of moving in those lines. And so that's like, this is what School 16 is going to do. We're going to do this for our, ELA curriculum. And these are the criteria. This is what we're going to do for our community engagement. These are our goals, and this is how we plan on doing it. So it'll look really, real specific how the set would go. But we would take all these recommendations and try to organize them in a way that it makes sense and it's not so broad. So we'll just really bring everything in and refine it. With goals, like I said, we'll dig a little deeper with those goals from the set with the recommendations and just really trying to match, take away, add, give, because really our set that we have now is like that working document to kind of get our feet up off the ground and move it in the direction of create that plan. Okay, so the 11th is fine for everybody? Can we look a little deeper in the month?
Conflict, that's all.
Yeah, we'll see. She didn't. We'll have to check. But she was just throwing that out. I think it's.
No, I got an email with that.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. Yeah.
So we
And
are doing the 11th?
Everyone said the 11th.
yeah, we had committed to the 11th
This is March.
a week ago. So
So the 11th is next Monday. We have, seems like Mondays work for everyone. Do we want to work on do anything on the 18th or the 25th? Okay, you have PTA. At 5 o'clock. Okay.
And some of the parents that's here, our cousins actually.
Oh, okay.
are we talking about this month or next month?
March.
March. So you're looking at a third meeting for March?
That's a Sunday.
Now, you need that third meeting before the middle of the month when you have to have that report
We
in?
probably could be pretty accomplished as long as we're focused really on the agenda on the 11th, and that's what I said, is really to refine everything.
Okay.
And align it with our set goals and really trying to pinpoint what those goals are gonna look like based on the recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna be a really hardy meeting where we may need more time.
I can go to the 18th and you take the 25th.
Okay.
Would that work?
Okay,
Break
will the
this up?
25th work for everyone?
Monday?
Monday the 25th as our second. Will you be okay?
Monday night. Not clear. Could be.
I think it's okay for me, but I'm not sure.
Speak now. All in favor? Any opposed? So the 25th is 5 o'clock. And once we get to the 11th, like I said, it depends on what we accomplish. Because that could really change. We may not even need to meet, but I really want to get a handle on what the recommendations look like in terms of the goals in the set. Okay?
Hold it off.
You can't do 25th. Okay. Everyone else can do? Okay. All right, so we're good. Just one person. All right, thank you. Everyone, good night. And I will make sure I have your email address. If